Hello everyone and welcome back to Video Editing 1 with Professor Harris. Today we're going to be covering Lesson 10, Creating Titles. So most videos require at least one title, such as a static title card, a superimposed web URL, or rolling credits. In this lesson we'll explore how to use the Avid Titler Plus tool and other options to create a title card. We're going to be working today in the Rock Climber project, so go ahead and launch that up. And while we wait, let's look at the goals for this lesson. First one is to add a basic title to your sequence, fade a title in and out, and edit existing titles. Okay, let's get into it. Creating a title with Avid Titler Plus. Quick note here, Avid Titler Plus is a segment effect, and it shares similarities with other segment effects that we've worked with before. That being said, there are some differences, and I'll point them out here in a second. For your guys' reference, I am working currently, if I open my sequence bin, I'm working in RC Montage V4, so this is the sequence that I assembled in class, and you can assemble in your own time with the footage that comes from this project. So I made essentially my own little montage here. I'm going to add some titles at the beginning and in other places going forward. Alright, so when we add the Avid Titler Plus to our timeline, let's first find where that is. Like I said, it's a segment effect, so it's going to be in our effects palette. We can scroll down here to title, or if you're feeling lazy, you can be set to all and search title here, and it will show up. Then we can drag this effect down to our timeline, and I'm going to drop it right there. And boom, we see the Avid Titler tool window open up, and we see the effect editor open up as well. So Media Composer instantly gives us access to separate tools for making adjustments to complete the available parameters for this effect. You can add the Avid Titler Plus directly to a segment, or if we prefer, we can add it to a section of filler on a higher track. So if I hadn't just added it here as filler, I could have added it here on this V2 empty filler track that I've got set up already. To add our Avid Titler Plus effect, I'm going to pretend that I didn't just add it. I'm going to close these windows real quick, and I'm going to remove the effect. If I wanted to add it to this filler track, what I could do is I could set an in, move the position indicator a little bit farther down, and maybe I want my title to fade right before this cut. So I'm going to hold Command, snap to that position, I'll hit out. So now I have an in and out set. I'm going to deselect these tracks, and then I'm going to double click the Avid Titler Plus and then drag it down onto this segment, and we'll see that it'll add just to that in and out region that I set here on my timeline. We can also enable the segment tool or in the effects workspace. That would be this bad boy. We know what the segment tool is. And then click the segment. This sets us up for adding a titler to an entire video segment. We can create a new video track. We already have one. You know this. You could make a new one by hitting Control Y or Command Y, and then again setting those in and outs to add it to. With this approach, we can add a title over part of the segment or across multiple segments, and we can control when it appears and disappears. So not only am I setting that in and out, but I'm also setting obviously the parameters as to when this title would show up and when this title would disappear. If we're working with a single display system, we need to consider activating the effects workspace for applying the Avid Titler effect, because organizing these windows on our interface can be annoying. So if I hit the effects palette or the effects workspace, some things are going to get a little bit more cleaned up, and we can move this here. So now we've got the effects editor here in the middle, and we can edit more things about our effect right there. Another way we could add the Avid Titler Plus segment effect to a shot is we could make sure that our segment mode tool is active, and we could select a specific clip, make sure the correct tracks are selected, so we deselect V2, and then I could just click this little Avid Titler Plus button right here, and then that's going to add the title. It's going to bring up our title Avid Titler tool, and we'll see it appear. We are in the effects workspace, so that effect editor also shows up here. So awesome. And then if we wanted to adjust parameters per se on one that we've already placed, so we'll go to this one, we can make sure that we have the right track selected. We could also select here, and that will open this effect, and we can reapply or edit the one that's already there. So those are some quick tips there as well. And I obviously set the duration here, the in and out, just this distance, but we could do something larger. We could set a bigger region and obviously add a title to this area, this filler track. Additionally, what we could do to make things a little bit quicker is we could just use the T key. We hit T, that sets an automatic in and out point. So I'll drag it over to another clip. Wherever the position indicator is at, if I hit T on the keyboard, it's going to automatically perfectly select the clip within this in and out region. So I could do that. I could have done that for this. I could have hit that and then, or I could have hit T, and that would set that in and out again. So those are 3 quick ways you could set up to add the Avid Titler Plus tool. All right, before we move on here, let's just take a quick second to identify some of the windows that we're looking at. Again, I'm in the effects workspace, so this is the arrangement that I've got going. The only floating window I have is this window. So the first one, we have the effects editor. We know the effects editor, we know it. We've used it, we know how it works. We can use these little arrows and drop downs to adjust the segment effects details. We also have the effect preview monitor. When we're, again, in effects and we're working with effects, this is the preview monitor. This is what the effect's actually going to look like. Remember that if we click out and we click into our timeline, start dragging here or on our TC1 track, all those are going to go away. We're not going to see our effects editor, we're not going to see our Avid Titler Plus tool, and we're not going to see the effect preview monitor properly. It snaps back to the record monitor. So we'll hover back over here and we'll hit the Avid Titler Plus button again, and then we'll get our settings back up. We also have the filler segment with the Avid Titler Plus. This is our filler segment. This is where we added. All of this is actually filler. If I activate my segment mode tool, then I can select this. This is just blank nothingness, but not Avid. This blank nothingness can have effects added onto it. All right, let me pull that Avid Titler Plus back up. Cool. And then we have, again, the Avid Titler Plus tool window. That is this guy right here. It provides a comprehensive set of adjustments, including options for customizing the typeface, appearance, alignment, and background. So plenty of options there. All right, let's keep moving. So now we're going to get into actually creating a title. That's going to be the fun part of this lesson. So like other apps with text creation and formatting tools, Avid Titler Plus includes well-known formatting options as well as its own options. So let's explore some of these workflow and adding and formatting text. So as you gain experience with Avid Titler Plus, you can tweak this to align with your design principles and processes. So to create a basic title, if our Avid Titler Plus tool isn't already open, we're gonna add it. Open the effects workspace and then add Avid Titler. Check, all done there. To create text, we can click anywhere in the effect preview monitor and start typing. So this is where things get weird. All we have to do over here is come in, I click it, and we see this little text thing appears. So we can do, I'm going to name it Rock Climber, because I am unimaginative and unoriginal. All right, so now we have text in there. Very, very cool. And then we can directly manipulate the text and position in the effect preview monitor by doing one of the following. We can press the escape key. So if we hit escape key, we can also click empty space in the area outside the text box. We can click the move mode button in the Avid Titler Plus tool. We can also switch from text mode to move mode, and then we can resize the title by clicking the white corner control handle and dragging it inward or outward. So let's do that one, because we can make this text, we can adjust the area that this text sits within, and eventually we can make it all bigger. Over here in our little settings, we could bold the text by hitting B, we could italicize the text, we could underline it. There are all kinds of options, and I think if you've used other editors, you'll be familiar with this as well. I can align it center. We even have kerning options, so if we wanted the text to get more spaced out, if we wanted to get it tighter together, we have all kinds of options for that. I'm going to open my system settings to allow this sort of stuff, apparently. Give me a second to work with this. Look at my password. All right. Anyway, moving on. We can also align it with other elements. We could align it center to the actual window, center middle, We could move this and make it smaller so that it's actually having a greater effect. Again, all kinds of options. We could change the position and the orientation of where it's actually at on the screen, and yeah, there's plenty of stuff. We can also add an outline to the text if we wanted. We could change colors, the fill color. So if we change the fill color, we could set it. You can see as I click this little bad boy, we're going to see it's absorbing colors from the actual screen as I move around. We'll leave it as white though. I think that's going to be the best contrast for us right now. There's also shadow. Shadow's turned on right now. If I click this, it will turn off, but it's not really showing up too well. Yeah, anyway, a bunch of settings, a bunch of things that you can play with. It's very similar to other text tool settings in other programs as well. I should probably go through the list though. Number one, we have the font list menu. So if we come over here, we can change the font. We've got all kinds of options. Let's go American typewriter for now and make our text nice and ugly. Oh, I need to close a color tool. Hold on, let me close. So I'm not selected on it anymore. Let me select all this text so it knows what I'm trying to edit. We can change this to American typewriter. We can see that change appear right in our effects editor. We also have the format buttons. Again, we can click bold, italic, underline, and a bunch of other things. And if we don't like what we did, we can always revert back. Cool. We also have the justification buttons. We can use these 3 buttons to set the text vertical position in the screen, and second 3 buttons to set the text horizontal position in the screen, or set justifications for multiple lines or selected text. We also have the font attributes on-off button. So in the font attributes, we have, it shows the active attributes in green. So these are the active attributes, and we can click a button to turn on more attributes like edge and frame and outline, and turn off other attributes as well. So options there. We also have the color box and the color gradient toggle. So we can click this box to enable eyedropper and sample colors. We talked about that. You can double click the box to open the color picker window. I didn't know you could do that. Okay, now I know. Cool. So you could pick a specific color, or you could use the eyedropper like I've been talking about this entire time and absorb a color from your scene or sequence. So say we wanted mud color. Now we have lovely mud color, and I click OK, and our rock climber text turns to mud color. Yippee. We also have the text and move mode buttons. We can use the text mode to add or adjust text. This is active by default when you add the Avid titler to your sequence. We can use the move mode to reposition the title in the screen. With the move mode active, you can click the title and enable the white boundary box and adjust the attributes like size, color, and shadow. Additional tools, we have the rectangle and oval buttons. We can use these to add and arrange the foreground and background text in and shape its order. We can also group and ungroup layer, but use the group and ungroup layer buttons. Use these buttons to group multiple text objects and layer them together. So we can have unified groups and make adjustments to larger text. And then we can also select previous layer and select next layer buttons. In complex compositions, we can click these buttons to step between text and object layers and make those adjustments there. As you can see, Avid Titler Plus tools include a robust set of options and controls. You can bookmark the page in the book where this is all talking about, so you can reference this later, especially if you're working with more advanced titles and techniques. I'm going to change this. Again, you just double click that space, and I'm going to make this a soft pink apparently. Oh, that's lovely. Alright. When you hover over the text and move mode icons in the Avid Titler Plus tool, tooltips appear. The labels differ from the icon names as follows. So we have the move mode. This is selection mode M. So if we hit M, oh, nope, that redid our text. Hold on. No, I lost it. I gotta retype this. Give me a second. Excuse me. Oh, we lost the pink color. No, I want the pink. We're going pink. Let's do pink now. We need a soft pink. Better. Cool. So we have our text and move mode. So if I hit the move mode, now I can reposition the text anywhere I want on the screen. And we have text mode, and that's going to allow us to click in here and make our edits as well. here's your shape mode button. Sorry, I didn't point these out earlier. I should have. Okay. To successfully make adjustments to our Avid Titler Plus tool, we can double-click the title in the selection of the effect preview monitor in the visible white box. We know how to do this. I've been doing this already. We can change the typeface by clicking. So first we're going to want to select everything. That's a good rule of thumb, is selecting everything. Because let's say if I only selected rock and then started changing the typeface, it is only going to change the typeface of the one that I have selected. So if I go to Apple Chancery, we'll see rock and climber are two different text types now. So I'll re-highlight that and I will change that back to American typewriter. I can see rock climber is not American typewriter either. So boom. Now we have them both set to American typewriter. Much, much better. Cool. You can also change the font size and things like that. So here's the font size. We can, when this little icon appears, if we click this, we can just drag it to the right, and that's going to make it bigger. Clearly, I'm only selected on 3 right now, so let's select all in our text here, and then I'm going to set it to American typewriter, so it's all default. And you can double-click in this space and set the size specifically by typing a number. So we'll do 200, and I'll hit enter. And I'm going to increase the box frame size so that we can see all of our text here. Now I'm going to switch to move mode, and I'm going to adjust where this is on the screen so it's to my liking. I'm going to shrink this as well. Oh, don't mean to do that. Let me drag that back out. What I was trying to do is drag this upward. Interesting. It's just locking. It's changing the size though. That's neat. I can center align it by clicking this button here and make sure the text is centered as well. We can also center align it here. Yeah, I think it's using this as the anchor point. We'll talk about that in a second. Alright, so we know how to change the font, we know how to change the color, we know how to change the typeface, we know how to change the kerning. We've done a lot of things. We know how to change the size. We are moving along. Next, we can adjust the drop shadow. So we can go to shadow, make sure it's enabled. We can adjust, we could even change the color. So if we wanted the shadow color to be something else, we could change that as well. I'm going to leave it black because that makes the most sense right now. We can increase the angle at which the shadow separates from the text. I think it looks best if it's something like that. So mine's set to 0.7. Again, with all these settings, if you double click, you can directly adjust them numerically. So you can type in a number to set your most satisfied settings. You can also change the shadow angle. So by clicking this, I can change where the shadow is dropping and landing. So there are options there for that as well. I'm going to adjust this back to similar to what I had here. And we'll do that. That looks best. Sweet. Okay, the next thing on the list here is to adjust the title's edge or frame. So we can click the corresponding enable button in the Avid Titler tool and make those adjustments as well. So we can click frame, and now we have a frame around our actual text. Let's say I wanted to double click this and change that color. We could set, what's a complementary color to pink? Hey, honey. Kateri? What's a complementary color to pink? What's a complementary color to pink? I'm still recording. I just quick answer.
I'm not sure.
You don't know?
I'm sorry, my brain's not working.
Okay. We'll just do a navy blue. Making lovely candy store type titles. All right. So there, we've selected blue now, guys, and it is bordered around our pink text. It looks so nice. All right. Last thing, we can move the title to a preset location in the effect preview monitor and click one or more justifications below. Again, we have all our justifications, all these different align left, align top, align right. It's not doing much. I think it's because of the way I have my text already set up. So be aware that it might not always make a huge difference as far as what's going on in your screen. Cool. Here are some additional tips, though, about Avid Titler Plus. To quickly add another text box, we can double-click the effect preview monitor and start typing. So if I wanted to have another title, let's say I had a main title and I had a subtitle, I'm just going to do Rock Climber Guy, and this is going to have a lot of the same default settings, but we can adjust this, I believe, independently from the other one. So if I wanted to make the colors on this one yellow, for some reason, that will happen. We can also switch to the Move tool, and we could make sure this is aligned center, or we could drag this center ourselves. And another thing you might want to do is, switching back to the text tool, when you have a main title and you have a subtitle, you're going to want to decrease the font. So we could do 120 on this one, and then we could have Rock Climber Guy. Golly, that color is so bad. I'm going to change that color right now. Give me a second. I don't want that. No, go away. I want this. There we go. We'll do a sky or blue, a more vibrant ocean. That looks so bad. This is hilarious. Okay. Make stuff that looks better than this. Obviously, I'm just trying to show you what functions are possible. Awesome. Some more tips. To delete a text box, we can ensure that the Move tool is active. So we can come over here and click the Move tool. And then we can select that text box, or make sure that that text box frame appears, and we can simply hit backspace or delete on our keyboard. So now we have deleted the Rock Climber Guy. And that would, again, backspace or delete, depending on which operating system you're on. Yeah, and we can quickly center the text by selecting the title in the screen within the Avid Titler Plus tool in the Effect Preview Monitor and hitting Control-Shift-C or Command-Shift-C. So Command-Shift-C. Sorry, I wasn't selecting it. Command-Shift-C. I don't think that's centered. I already had it centered. I might have undone something that I already had set before. So if your text wasn't already centered, you could use that as a quick command for future reference. By default, Avid Media Composer places your title over the video. So if necessary, you can place the text over a solid or gradient background. To place our title over a background in Avid Titler Plus tool, we can click the Background Enable button, and then we can double-click the background color and set what we want. So right here, BG, that stands for background, and now our background has turned to a solid gray. We can double-click this color, and we can set whatever color we want. So if we wanted a very neon green, wow, so nice, so beautiful. It's so nice. We love it. It looks so good. And we can hit 6 on our keyboard, and if I could play, we would see what that looks like. Right now it's just a stagnant on the background, but if I turn it off and then click this button, we'll see it play with our title over the screen. Wow, so nice. Such a beautiful project. Cool. So that's the background, if you wanted to add a background. All right, what else? We can also, to create a background gradient, we can click the small box on the left of the background color box and double click one of the 4 color boxes and change that portion to a gradient. So what did I just say? Right here next to the color, we can click this, and then it gives us like a pattern that we can make, a gradient that we can start developing, and we could set these colors as well. And then you could build a gradient from here, selecting your colors, and then making sure that your background was enabled, of course, and go from there. So those are more options as far as making backgrounds. Let's move on now to saving a title as a template. Okay, awesome. We've spent hours now, hunched over this laptop, creating this beautiful text, this Avid Titler Plus effect that we want to save to our bins. How do we do that? Well, we talked about this in class. We talked about this in other lectures, and I have a titles bin specifically for saving these effects. All you have to do is make sure that you have your effects editor open, and all you need to do is click and drag this into your bins. It doesn't have to be in your titles bin. It could be in your effects bin. Theoretically, you could save it there as well, but it really is that simple. So if you wanted to apply this Avid Titler effect on another clip later, you could simply click and drag and drop, and boom, now we have that same exact rock climber text and effect on this shot. And making sure we're in the effects workspace, and you click the Avid Titler Plus, we could open back up our Avid Titler Plus tool, and you could switch to text and then put more text on this. Yeah, so something like that. And then we can click our little playthrough button. Yeah, see? Awesome. Working out great. So that's how to save your shots into templates as templates and then re-access them again later. You can apply the template to a segment in the timeline and the same way that you would with another segment effect like we just did, and Media Composer will recreate the title again on that new segment. The effects editor includes parameters that complete those in the Avid Titler Plus tool. So not only can we work with our Avid Titler Plus tool, but there are more things that we can adjust right here in the effects editor. More drop-down windows that we can play with and more ways to customize. We're going to get into that now. In the effects editor, you can adjust various attributes like face, shadow, edge, and frame. Essentially, you can use the Avid Titler Plus tool and the effect editor simultaneously to customize and animate your titles. That, and you'll find additional options in the effects editor not found in the Avid Titler Plus tool. For example, parameters for creating fades. When you resize your title, this is a note here, in the effect preview monitor, Media Composer enables and updates the scale parameter located in the layer number text group. So in our layers here, we have different layers that we can set, and it automatically makes that adjustment there in the effect editor. So if you need to follow the font size specifications, adjust the size parameters in the face parameter group in the effect editor plus tool. So any changes you make as far as font size here will be saved as layers here in our effect editor mode. To fade your title in or out, you can choose between two methods. Let's explore each. Now we're getting into fading titles. So fading a title in and out, when you create titles such as a lower third, supers, you'll likely add a fade in and fade out to them. Like many features in Avid Media Composer, you get to choose how you do this. We have the quick transition tool. With this approach, it works well if you want to add the titler to a filler track. It does mean you need to start and end the title at a precise moment in the timeline. So one way we could do this is by, like it just said, we could click the quick transitions button, making sure our playhead is near a cut point on what we're trying to adjust. We could click this quick transition button. We could make sure we're only selected on our V2 track. So make sure only the V2 track is selected. We could add a dissolve and make sure it's maybe centered on cut. So we see that nice fade out there, and I can click add. And now when we scrub through here, we'll see that that text slowly fades away. We can do the same thing at the beginning by dragging this here, clicking the same button, except we're going to set it now to start at cut, and then that's going to start it within this shot. So it'll fade in and then fade out after I hit add here. So now we have a fade in and fade out very quickly, one after another. So it fades in and then it fades out. Okay, so that's one way to do it. We could do it with a quick transition transition tool. We can also use the fade effect. With this approach, you can gain flexibility since you don't need to add fades to titles start and end points. This works great if you add the title to a video clip rather than a filler. So our title right now is added to filler, but if we had added this title as an effect over a video, I know this can be confusing because clearly you see the text and you see the video. Again, this is the V2 track. I have my text added on a filler track, and I would probably recommend doing this, having a dedicated track, and you could rename this track and call it titles, and then now you have a dedicated track for any titles that get added. Typically your V2 track would be saved for B-rolls or cutaway shots, so this would be more like a V3, V4 kind of track going forward. But again, you could add that directly onto segments in your timeline. That would be another way you could do that, and the fade effect would be more flexible when doing so. Okay, let's do that now though. Let's add a titler plus to. Let's remove these. We don't need these titles here. There's not even titles on them. But let's add a title to a shot We'll use this one because it's longer. So we can select it with our segment mode tool. We could hit Avid Titler Plus. We could hover with our position indicator, deselect our V2 track, and hit T on our keyboard. That would set an in and out mark again. And then we could click our Avid Titler Plus. We could double click our Avid Titler, or we could drag and drop this Avid Titler from the effects palette. There's a bazillion ways to do this. And then we could drag and drop that directly onto the shot that we're trying to use. Okay, let's put some text into this. Okay, we'll just put he falls. We'll just go from there. All right. So the fade effect feature automatically adds keyframes to a segment effect that contains the foreground parameter group that includes the Avid Titler Plus. Once applied, you can adjust the fade's timing in the effect preview monitor if necessary. The fade effect isn't mapped to the default Media Composer interface or keyboard. If you plan to use this feature often, consider mapping the effect preview monitor's toolbar, the timeline palette, or keyboard palette to your keyboard. Okay, so let's map the fade effect real quick to by using the command palette. So we'll go to Tools. Let's select off our Avid Titler though first, and we'll just there. Now we have Avid Titler. It says he falls. Let's get into mapping that. So we'll go to Tools, Command Palette. Command Palette. You can also hit Command 3 on your keyboard. That will open the Command Palette. We can also optionally go to File, Settings, User tabs, and then double-click the keyboard settings. For example, we could do the MC English one and then add it on our keyboard. But right now, let's add it to an available space in our effects or our timeline toolbar. So we're going to make sure we click the FX tab, and then we're going to come down here to the fade effect, and we're going to drag this to our, and then making sure button-to-button reassignment's on. We'll drag our fade effect to an available spot in our timeline. Cool, awesome. Okay, if you plan on using the quick transition method to fade a title in and out, you can always use the command palette, active palette. So if we go to active palette, we could be using these buttons to add quick transitions in places. Again, active palette essentially turns this into all these buttons down here. So it essentially does all the same things, and you can work through any one of the screens to use all of these buttons as if you were either pressing them on your keyboard or using them again in these little windows. But we are done with this, so we're going to close it. Cool. All right, and now we can set our frames. So we'll do 12 in the fade up and 12 in the fade down, and then click OK. So Media Composer adds 4 keyframes to our title after we do this. 2 at the beginning to create the fade in, and 2 at the end to create the fade out. What if we applied the fade effect in the Avid Titler effect? You add it directly to the segment and then need to delay the fade in, or you need to fade out sooner, you can. So if we want to adjust, so I just put those in, but what if we wanted to adjust those frames? We can activate the effects workspace, which we're in now currently, and we can select the timeline segment containing the Avid Titler Plus, check, and then we can, to adjust the fade in, we can go to the effect preview monitor, which is here, but let's open our effect mode tool, and we should see our Avid Titler. Yeah, awesome. In the effect preview monitor, we can see those keyframes. So 1, 2, those are our fade in. 3, 4, those are our fade out. So we can hold Alt or Option on Mac and drag those keyframes around forward and backward. So if I hold Option or Alt, I can drag in around when those keyframes will come in and out. And very, very cool. So we've got options for that. We can do the same thing on the other side. To adjust the fade out, we can click the third keyframe and shift click the fourth and last keyframe. We can also Alt or Option drag the pink keyframe back into the left. So there are a few ways to adjust these bad boys. If you want to adjust how and when and where these shots are fading in and fading out. So if we want to really delay this he falls, I could really drag that one over, and then we can play the loop here. Oh, can't do it while I'm recording. I always forget that. Cool. So that would be how we adjust those handles with the fade effect applied. All right. The title now fades in and out as desired, and at the desired times that we set with our keyframes. So we can bypass the fade effect by manually adding keyframes. To do this, we'll look more at using keyframes later this semester when we get an Avid Media Composer Fundamentals 2, MC101. If your titles look less than ideal or doesn't become fully transparent during the fades, you may need to adjust the video display quality. To do this, we can use the video quality button at the bottom of the timeline. That's this guy here. This button cycles through various display qualities in the composer window. The available quality options may change if you connect additional hardware to your computer. So I'm going to pull up now on screen what those buttons look like so you can familiarize yourself with them. Awesome. So that's what these look like here. And for your reference too, as far as how these buttons work, you kind of cycle through. So as you click this, you're going to click it over and over and over again, and it's going to change to each one of these different display settings. But Avid Media Composer wants you to know that video quality is a monitoring function only, and it won't actually affect the video quality when you output your sequence. So if you're changing between draft quality, full quality 10-bit, full quality floating, and best performance, even if it looks degraded in your preview monitors or your effect preview monitor, it's not actually degrading your project on final export. Very cool, Avid Media Composer. Thank you. All right, let's move now into modifying a title. As you know, the creative process is an evolution and not one singular moment in time. So whether you're the one driving the creative vision or that person is the producer, director, or client, you will inevitably have to change a title eventually. And this could be even after it's designed, created, and approved. I know my wife works over at Marcom, and things will be approved, you'll go down the pipeline, and then out of nowhere, the client or the university or the director or the producer is going to want it changed. So this is something that is going to happen to you, and if it's not happening, then you're not progressing. All right, so if we want to modify a title that we've already created, I think I talked about this earlier, but we'll place the timeline's position indicator over a segment with the Avid Titler Plus icon on it, and then we'll enable the correct track selector, so our V1 track selector is correctly selected. And then we're going to do one of the following things to open the Avid Titler tool and effect editor. We can click the effect in the workspace bar and ensure the effect mode is active, then click the Avid Titler Plus button to open the Avid Titler Plus tool. So we can make sure we're the effect workspace, click this button, and then we can click the Avid Titler Plus tool, and that will all open up that way. Additionally, we could click the effect mode button in the timeline palette to open the effect editor, and then click the Avid Titler Plus button. That's literally what I just said. And then we're going to activate the segment tool. We can select the segment with the timeline and click the Avid Titler Plus. So we could instead do this, where we get our segment mode tool, we could select it, and then we could select the Avid Titler Plus, and then that's going to open all that as well. To change or add text to the title, we can activate the text mode by double-clicking the title in the effect preview monitor. We already know how to do this, and then we can double-click here in our empty space in our effect preview monitor. With the text mode active, we can select part of the title and make changes. We currently can't see the title, so what we can do is drag here till we do see it. Remember, we added this nice fade in effect. So we can select in here, and we can double select, and we are able to edit this text. So we could change it from he falls to he fails, because it's essentially the same thing. We can then switch to the move mode over here, and we can modify it, same as we were doing earlier. We can drag it out, make it bigger, move it around, put it in an area with higher contrast so that people can look at it and laugh harder at him. Awesome. If your titles box includes multiple lines of text, You can alter justifications within the text box as well. So we could be clicking these align to, we could be clicking these indicators as well. And there's a bazillion other things we can do. It's essentially all the same stuff that we were doing before. It just gives you access again to it. Unbelievably, that is the end of this lesson. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned a little bit more about adding text. Don't forget to get into the lab, get into the program, and start playing around and goofing off with these features. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.